Thank you very much. I've decided to use this podium because I've seen everybody uses that podium. But there are two podiums in the house. I'm using this one for a change. Masters of Ceremony, Program Directors, there are two. Your Excellency, President Chelema from Zambia, thank you very much for coming. You will appreciate that when the President Ramaphosa is not here, and I'm here, I'm also doubling up as a president. I can't help that. Let me pay my respect to the Executive Mayor of Cape Town for hosting us. You know, Cape Town has a long history. There are very few people in South Africa who understand that inequality started here in the country. That is what is called the Cape Slave history. It started in Cape Town, and even General de Olmera, who colonized Mozambique, was killed here. Before 1652, which is known as the date of colonization, much earlier, he was killed here by the Khoi people. So it's quite an important city for us, for many reasons, not just beauty, and for its own history, which we don't talk about. Ministers and deputy ministers present here, I've seen many of you, and the Deputy Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources in South Africa, Phumzile Mgcina. I've seen some traditional leaders who have been invited to be part of the Mining Indaba, members of the Diplomatic Corps, organizers of 2024 Invest in Africa Mining Indaba. Thank you very much for organizing it here in Cape Town. Captains of the industry, members of the investment community, you are the main reason that we are here. We can praise everybody else, but the reason that we are here is because captains of the industry and investment community must interact and invest in the Africa mining industry. And that's why we're here. So you're quite important to us. Leadership of organized labor, civil society, and communities, all distinguished guests that are present here. It is both an honor and a privilege to welcome you once again in South Africa for the second Investing in Africa Mining Indaba. I'm doing this on behalf of the country. The Executive Mayor of Cape Town did it for Cape Town. The chairperson of the advisory board did it for the organizers, and I'm doing it for South Africa. Big difference. So this Mining Indaba convenes at a moment of profound global uncertainty. We may daft and pretend as if there's no such. We are witnessing heightened geopolitical tensions in the world, driven largely by competition of some developed economies seeking greater control over natural resources of developing nations. It's not our fault we have deposits here, but the great nations want to have control over those deposits, though they are with us. So we have a responsibility to protect them. If we discover copper in the Northern Cape, President, we have an obligation to talk to Zambia and DRC so that we don't flood the market and kill the price of copper unintentional. Because it is not only us who is competing for copper. Latin America is very heavy on copper, and they are competing with us. So we have a responsibility to compare notes as the African continent. This dynamic represents a serious threat to sovereign resource endowed countries, and the majority of which are here in the African continent. We are endowed with these resources. We are in Africa, we are in the poorest continent, though we have the richest deposits of minerals in the world. That is a contradiction. President, I said yesterday, this is not a function of resources, it's a function of leadership. We've given away our leadership and we've given away our role. We have given it to everybody else except ourselves. As a result, we are at the mercy of everybody else for our own resources. That must change. That must just change. It is therefore befitting that the theme of this year's Indaba is stronger together, progress through partnership, which means it's not only governments that must work together, we must work with the private sector. I know that in Africa, working with the private sector is like taboo because it is our resources, we must own them and we must run them. I'm a great believer of working with the private sector because together we can do more. Our resources can give us better results, but if we compete with one another, we are not going to achieve what we want to achieve. To us, this is not merely a slogan, it is a strategic imperative for Africa to act collectively. Speak in one voice, avoid destructive race to the bottom in our engagement with global powers investors. Let's not allow a situation where, when we talk with our colleagues from Europe, we talk to them as EU, but we talk to them as individual 54 countries. We're much weaker. My background is in the trade union movement. I know that when you are a worker alone, you are weaker against the employer. But once you form a union, at least you have a collective power to engage the employer. Same applies to the continent. This continent owes it to itself to unite, work together, talk to the outside world as one. It's a long way to go, but let's try it, let's give it a go. It is what we need most as a continent. It is in this spirit that we convened the second edition of the African Ministers Critical Minerals Roundtable. Critical minerals. And we are explaining that critical minerals have no universal definition. America defined critical minerals in terms of the role in the defense system. If you go to China, it's the role it plays in the technology. If you go to Europe, it's in the greening of the economy. And that goes on and on and on. In Africa, it should have a different meaning. And that different meaning is simple. Here, we need the role of the critical minerals on the economy. We need to talk on export earnings. We need to talk about it in terms of its contribution to development in the continent. And we have our own definition. That's why in our critical minerals, we are also having coal as one of them. In other continents, it's a dirty product. For us, it's quite an important product because it employs many people and it earns foreign earnings and it does many things in Africa. So we must not be following the fashion of others. We must assess the impact on our own continent. What does what mineral do in the continent? So that is going to help us. Actually, in 2025, in 2024, first of all, and in 2025, demand for coal has increased. Not in Africa, everywhere in the world, because though we write it off, its contribution is significant. Base load in electricity and many other roles. And it is more important now with the research, we discover that in coal, you find many other critical minerals, like your rare earth elements. You find it in coal and you get other critical minerals in coal. So let's pay attention to that. Let's invest in technology. Let's invest in science. Let's invest in innovation. If we do that, we're going to discover the usefulness of every mineral. And I've come to a conclusion that every mineral is critical. Every mineral is critical. So this thing of critical minerals is a nice to have, but a mineral is critical everywhere because everything you have here, you either grow it or you mine it. If you don't mine it, you grow it. If you don't do both, it will not exist. So it's quite important for us to have a partnership on critical minerals. Africa must talk with one voice. Our objective is clear: deepen collaboration, accelerate responsible exploration and mining, and ensure that Africa captures greater value of its own mineral endowment. We can make this continent a better continent. As per the consensus reached last year, our partnership must move beyond extraction to industrialization. We should add value close to the point of production. I had a fight with my president who is funding Africa, and I said to him, Lobito Corridor, we either see it as a competitor or we see it as a necessary complementary value addition in the continent. And if we do that, we must reduce pit to port. We must not take copper from Zambia to Angola for export. We must add value in Zambia so that copper is value added in Zambia. And when it goes to Angola to the port, it must be a processed product. That's all we're saying. And so that is all we're saying, because if we don't do that, we're going to be in trouble. I'm pleased to report that that this work has now been complete. The strategy is in place and the implementation is underway. Those who were in the round table of ministers got a copy of the G20 framework for critical minerals. Africa must use that framework so that it brings us together, it makes us understand one another, it makes us collaborate instead of competing. And this competition is what I call race to the bottom, because we give conditions that are attracting investment to us at a huge cost to our countries. Let's work together. As per G20 declaration, this assessment has not only shaped South African critical mineral agenda, it has also positioned Africa more broadly to assert greater control over its strategic resources. Central pillar of this strategy is the review of regulatory framework. Those who want our critical minerals must not find it easy to move from one country to the next and actually play us against each other. We must have a uniform framework that guides all of us in the continent. Then we are going to be able to compete everywhere we go. In exploration, for example, in South Africa, we have something called black economic empowerment here. Many say it is driving investors out. It is not. It is an opportunity given to people who are excluded by apartheid from economic activity. But in exploration, we said we exclude people because exploration adds no value. You are looking for the quantity and the quality of minerals. Therefore, you don't need to carry a burden of a black partner. Do your exploration. At the point of production, we can talk about having a partner. And I can tell you that we have made a lot of progress in this regard. We have many black industrialists in South Africa. We're not talking much about it. We must talk about it so that the continent can understand that though we're the second last born, there's things that we're doing differently that can help the African continent. Well, the second last point, the only last point in South Sudan, everybody else is older than us. We learn from all of you. Now, the exploration fund for junior miners has been established. We put a total of 100 million rand. It's more than 2 billion rand now, because it is attracting attention of many people, and everybody is beginning to appreciate the fact that you will not have mining unless you do exploration. Exploration is the beginning of mining. If you don't do exploration, you will kill mining. So we'll put money on that. We are still appealing to companies to put money in the exploration fund, because if we do that, we will be doing better in mining in the future. I can tell you that, I will give you a short summary of what we have achieved since the last mining Indaba. You know, we have established this exploration fund. We gave 8 projects. Of those, 4 are ready for development of a mine. We're drilling for rare earth minerals in Bothaville, we're drilling for gold in Limpopo, and our people must just use this more and more and do more exploration. Now, it is quite important for the Council for Geoscience to do what they showed us yesterday, called virtual core library, where geological mapping is seen virtually. It gives more access to geological information, you get access to it, you can do more without physically going to Council for Geoscience. It is a virtual library. While our regulatory review process continues, we're encouraged by the ongoing investment sector. I don't know, between the last mining Indaba and now, we've sunk 5 shafts in South Africa. We've sunk 5 shafts. 1 is in gold, 1 is in PGM, 3 are in coal, and people must just see the future of mining growing. 8 junior exploration projects have been given, 4 ready for a building of mine. 21 artisanal small-scale mines, more to learn from the continent. We are not experienced in this. We are a country of major and massive mining companies. All of a sudden, we're venturing into artisanal and junior mining. We can learn from the continent. And the continent must be ready to teach us. Because if we don't, that artisanal and junior mining is going to be replaced by illegal mining, where people do artisanal mining on their own, unregulated. So the continent must be ready to teach us as South Africa. I can tell you that we have granted 358 prospecting rights in this 1 year. And we have actually issued 32 mining rights. That is the interest that is shown because of the mining Indaba in South Africa. Because people interact with one another and learn from each other. And I'm sure our administration is working very hard to improve our licensing system. And it is urgent, it is slow. Actually, we have discovered that the veracity of the information loaded determines the efficiency of the system. And that is making us slower than we imagined. So let me conclude by commending South African mining industry for achieving the smallest and the lowest mine fatalities on record. In 2025, we've reduced the number of fatalities in the industry to 41. That is a long way from 0 harm, but 41 is quite a good record for the industry to achieve as fatalities in the industry. It used to be a killing industry. We had a disaster in Kinross where we killed 177 people in one incident in 10 minutes. All of a sudden, for the whole year, 41. That's what we've achieved. I think we must commend the industry for that. The more we work together, the more we can reduce fatalities in the industry and make this industry safe. People must go and mine and come back alive. Thank you very much for all of you for being here. Please do interact with one another, invest more in the continent. This continent is great. This continent has a lot of potential. We must just invest. It will give us returns. We're not just begging for money. We give us money, you will get returns, I can tell you. It's quite a rich continent. Thank you very much. You are welcome to South Africa. It's a great mining destination. We continue to be one such destination. We're a mining destination. Thank you. Let me thank to the President of Zambia. You are my counterpart today. Today, you are my counterpart. I am the president for the duration of this meeting.
Thank you one more time to the Minister for the Republic of South Africa. It is said that human beings fear public speaking more than death. I don't have that issue. What I fear on stage is mispronouncing names and not keeping time. So in as much as I'd like to encapsulate and give you the highlights of the speech, I want to keep my job, and I'm just going to go swiftly into the next panel discussion. The topic for that is Beyond Symbolism, Government Industry Alignment in Practice. Now we do have the founder and the host of Africa here, and now who will expertly moderate this panel. So please help me warmly welcome to stage Martine Dennis. A round of applause, please.